Hello everyone, it's Dr. Mohib, and in this lecture we will be going through phenylalanine and tyrosine metabolism, phenylketonuria, alkaptonuria, and at last some memory drills. We will be covering amino acids and their derivatives, but we will be not going through all of the amino acids, but rather we will be focusing only on phenylalanine and its disorders. So first of all, phenylalanine. It is an essential amino acid and also it is a ketogenic plus glucogenic type of amino acid. It is metabolized into further amino acids as well as catecholamines. The mnemonic for its metabolism is pure true love does not exist. Pure true love does not exist. So P for phenylalanine, true for tyrosine, love is for L-dopa, then does for dopamine, not for norepinephrine, and exist for epinephrine. The products of phenylalanine metabolisms are monoamines like dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. So our body generates monoamines using phenylalanine metabolism. Our body also generates melanin, which is a pigment giving our skin, hair, and eyes color. Then it also generates thyroxine, which is a thyroid hormone using iodine. Now let's switch towards catecholamine synthesis and tyrosine catabolism. The same mnemonic, pure true love does not exist. So first of all, phenylalanine. Phenylalanine is converted into tyrosine by an enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase, and the cofactor required for this reaction is Tetrahydrobiopterin. Then tyrosine is converted into L-dopa by an enzyme tyrosine hydroxylase, and the cofactor required for this reaction is again same tetrahydrobiopterin. Then L-dopa is converted into dopamine by an enzyme dopa decarboxylase, and the cofactor required for this reaction is vitamin B6. We know that decarboxylation reactions require vitamin B6 as a cofactor, while carboxylation reactions require vitamin B7. So since it is a decarboxylation reaction, so it requires vitamin B6. Then L-dopa is converted into dopamine, then dopamine is converted into norepinephrine by an enzyme dopamine beta hydroxylase. And the cofactor required for this reaction is vitamin C, which is a unusual place for vitamin C to act as a cofactor. And at last, norepinephrine is converted into epinephrine by an enzyme phenylethanolamine and methyltransferase, and the cofactor required for this reaction is S-adenosyl methionine, which gives methyl groups to the donors. Also, L-dopa by using an enzyme tyrosinase is converted into dopa quinone, and this dopaquinone polymerizes to form melanin, the pigment of our body. So now, and also tyrosine is catabolized into homogentisic acid, and this homogentisic acid is converted into malolacetic acid by an enzyme homogentisic acid oxidase, and this malolacetic acid is converted into fumarate as well as acetoacetate. So this acetoacetate is a ketone, while this fumarate enter the TCA cycle and thus enter the TCA cycle, which can go on to develop into glucose. So thus phenylalanine is both glucogenic as well as ketogenic amino acid. So now if there is any sort of abnormality in this pathway, we will have certain diseases. So if there is abnormality or in conversion of phenylalanine into tyrosine, for instance, there is a deficiency of an enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase, we will have a condition known as phenylketonuria. Same like if we have a deficiency of an enzyme tyrosinase, we will have albinism. And also if we have a deficiency of homogentisic acid oxidase, we will have Alkaptonuria. Now at last, the catecholamine metabolism. So norepinephrine as well as epinephrine, they are converted into first of all, dopamine. Dopamine is converted into homovanillic acid, and norepinephrine as well as epinephrine are converted by two sets of enzymes. First is monoamine oxidases and COMT or catechol-O-methyltransferase or COMT, and they both monoamine oxidases and catecholamine or methyltransferases or COMT can function or metabolize irrespective of the manner, like the order. Either monoamine can act first or COMT can act first. So if COMT act first, the product, the norepinephrine, is converted into norepinephrine and epinephrine is converted into metanephrine, and this then the norepinephrine and metanephrine are converted or being acted by monoamine oxidases, converting it into vinyl mandelic acid. And if the reverse occurs, the norepinephrine and epinephrine are being acted by MAOs first, then we will have dihydroxymandelic acid, and this dihydroxymandelic acid is then being acted by the COMT to convert into vinyl mandelic acid. Now the regulators are the dopa decarboxylase is regulated, or the inhibitor of this is carbidopa, which inhibits the conversion of dopa into dopamine. So carbidopa has several roles in our body. It is a drug given to patients of Parkinson. In Parkinson, patients have low dopamine levels. But the problem that we have in Parkinson is that the patient has low dopamine levels in brain. But dopamine cannot enter the brain, or it cannot cross the blood-brain barrier, while the L-dopa can. So we give the patients L-dopa. This L-dopa enters or crosses the blood-brain barrier. Over there, it is acted by the dopa decarboxylase to convert into dopamine. But we have another problem, that this dopa decarboxylase is the central or the brain dopa decarboxylase, while peripheral dopa decarboxylase converts the L-dopa into dopamine decarboxylase, and this dopamine gives us different side effects which are not required. So to get rid of these peripheral side effects, we give patients carbidopa. This carbidopa inhibits the peripheral dopa decarboxylase, thus preventing us from the side effects of peripheral dopamine, while at the same time giving us the effects of central or brain dopamine. So this was about carbidopa. Then we have other drugs like monoamine oxidase inhibitors as well as COMT inhibitors. So first of all, the monoamine oxidase inhibitors given in depression, the monoamine, right over here, the monoamine oxidase inhibitors are given in depression, like for instance phenelzine. The function of this monoamine oxidase inhibitor like phenelzine is to increase the levels of different neurotransmitters like dopamine, norepinephrine and serotonin, because these all are metabolized by the monoamine oxidases. Same, we also give COMT inhibitors as well as monoamine oxidase inhibitors in Parkinson. In Parkinson, we give COMT inhibitors like entacapone and tolcapone, and monoamine oxidase inhibitors like selegiline. The function of these drugs is to increase the dopamine levels. So this was all about catecholamine synthesis and tyrosine catabolism. Now let's switch towards phenylketonuria. Now, what is phenylketonuria? In phenylketonuria, phenylalanine cannot be converted into tyrosine. The classical type is when we have the deficiency of phenylalanine hydroxylase, it is absent. But in other type of phenylketonuria, which is the tetrahydrobiopterin deficiency, in that type of phenylketonuria, we have the deficiency of dihydropteridine reductase, which converts the dihydropteridine into tetrahydrobiopterin using NADH. Now, what happens when phenylalanine cannot be converted into tyrosine? We will have high levels of phenylalanine. So, by an alternative pathway, phenylalanine is converted into phenylketones. First of all, it is converted, the phenylalanine is converted into the phenylketones. The phenylketones are phenyl. First of all, it is converted into phenyl pyruvate, and these phenyl pyruvate are converted into phenyl lactate and phenyl acetate. So phenyl pyruvate is converted into phenyl lactate as well as phenyl acetate. So this was about phenylketones. Now, dietary proteins like aspartame, which is made up of aspartate and phenylalanine are also converted into phenylalanine. So if we do not have the conversion of phenylalanine into tyrosine, we won't have thyroxine conversion, we won't have dopamine and norepinephrine and epinephrine as well as melanin. So what happens in phenylketonuria? Phenylketonuria is caused by decreased phenylalanine hydroxylase, and in such conditions tyrosine becomes essential because phenylalanine cannot be converted into tyrosine. So this leads to increased phenylalanine, which are converted into phenylketones, and they appear in urine. The another type of phenylketonuria is the tetrahydrobiopterin deficiency, the cofactor required for the phenylalanine hydroxylase. In this type of, since BH4 or tetrahydrobiopterin is an essential cofactor for phenylalanine hydroxylase, the tetrahydrobiopterin deficiency leads to increased phenylalanine. There are varying degrees of clinical severity, and untreated patients typically die in infancy. In addition to phenylketonuria, the dihydropteridine patients have decreased dopamine levels, norepinephrine, epinephrine, but also these patients have low levels of serotonin because the serotonin reaction also requires tetrahydrobiopterin. So these patients must be supplemented with dopamine as well as serotonin, and the level of their dopamine levels are checked by the prolactin levels. Since dopamine has an inhibitory effect on prolactin, if you look it over here, the dopamine has an inhibitory effect on prolactin. So in these patients having tetrahydrobiopterin deficiency, the prolactin levels are checked. In these patients, we will have high levels of prolactin, and these levels are checked to give an idea of how much dopamine levels are there in the body. So it is an autosomal recessive type of disorder. Then we have another type of phenylketonuria or disorder regarding phenylalanine metabolism is that phenylalanine embryopathy. In this case, there is no deficiency or abnormality regarding phenylalanine metabolism. Rather, this is caused due to the high levels of phenylketones present in mothers. So any female patient having phenylketonuria, and if she becomes pregnant and her phenylketone levels are not checked or not kept normal, so these high levels of phenylketones can act as teratogen. They can cross the placental barrier and affect the embryo or the developing fetus. So high levels of phenylalanine levels in pregnant patients with untreated phenylketonuria can cause fetal growth restriction. It affects CVS and CNS. So it causes general growth restriction and microcephaly, intellectual disability, and congenital heart defects, and can be prevented with dietary measures. Then the screening occurs 2 to 3 days after birth because the levels are normal at birth because of maternal enzyme during fetal life. The findings are, so it affects first of all the high levels of phenylketones affect CNS. Then these patients do not have melanin, so they will show symptoms of albinism or skin. And third, we have odor or musty odor. So we have these three things in phenylketonuria: skin problems, CNS problems, and the odor. So The findings will be intellectual disability, microcephaly, seizures. These are all the CNS symptoms. Then these patients also have hypopigmented skin, eczema, musty body odor. These patients also have pale skin, fair hair, and blue eyes. The treatment is to decreased phenylalanine in diet and increased tyrosine in diet, like soya products like chicken, fish, and milk. The tetrahydrobiopterin supplementation is also given to speed up or ramp up the remaining phenylalanine hydroxylase. The disorder of aromatic amino acid metabolism, thus giving the body a musty body odor. Patients with phenylketonuria must avoid the artificial sweetener aspartame, which is converted into phenylalanine. As I have mentioned in start, that the artificial, the artificial sweetener aspartame consists of aspartate as well as phenylalanine, and this phenylalanine present in aspartame can severe or worsen the condition of the phenylketonuria. So this was all about phenylketonuria. Now let's switch toward Alkaptonuria. So alkaptonuria is a congenital deficiency of homogentic oxidase in the degradative pathway of tyrosine to fumarate. If we come over here, homogentic acid oxidase convert homogentic acid into malolacetic acid, which is converted into fumarate and acetoacetate, and fumarate enters the TCA cycle. So in alkaptonuria, we have the deficiency of homogentic oxidase, and we have a buildup of high levels of homogentic oxidase. So we have pigment forming homogentic acid build up in tissue. So this homogentic acid is a pigment forming structure accumulated in the connective tissues. It is autosomal recessive and usually benign. The findings are bluish black connective tissue, ear cartilage, and sclera known as ochronosis. This is the condition. These black spots are known as ochronosis. Another thing is that urine turns black on prolonged exposure to air or left standing due to high levels of homogentic oxidase, which is a pigment forming structure. The main concern that these patients have is that they have a debilitating arthralgias due to the buildup of homogentic oxidase, which is toxic to cartilage. And these symptoms usually manifest at adulthood. Another classic symptom this patient has is that on X-ray they have calcification in intervertebral discs. The diagnosis is that these patients have high levels of homogentic oxidase in urine as well as plasma. And the treatment is same like phenylketonuria, dietary restriction of phenylalanine and tyrosine. This was all about phenylalanine and tyrosine metabolism. Now let's switch toward memory drills. So first of all, which cofactor is required for phenylalanine hydroxylase? Is it biotin, pyridoxine, tetrahydrobiopterin, or folate? I hope you would be able to answer it at this point. And the correct option is tetrahydrobiopterin. A child with intellectual disability, seizures, eczema, and hypopigmentation most likely has skin conditions and CNS and skin. So it is Alkaptonuria, maple syrup urine disease, phenylketonuria, or albinism. And the correct option is phenylketonuria. And at last, accumulation of which substance occurs in Alkaptonuria? Is it phenylpyruvate, homogentic oxidase, dopamine, or porphyrin? And the correct option is homogentic oxidase. Thank you.